You have a name for this room?
No, not really. Some call it my wall of fame or whatever, and joking with me because it's pictures of mainly of myself. But
It looks like you did some really cool stuff. Let's kind of go through and talk about, just kind of point some of the things out, even the stuff with your dad.
yeah, that he'd already passed away, but he was inducted into a Hall of Fame up in Northeast Ohio, and I went and accepted the award for him, and had to do a little speech. But yeah, my dad was a badass. And this is the Stenhouse. You talk about NASCAR guys that I know or whatever. That's Ricky Stenhouse Sr. and Ricky Jr. that runs NASCAR right now. Jeff Gordon, I've always been friends with him. He sent me that Wheaties box that he signed.
Have a fun sponsorship.
Yeah. Various stuff. A lot of my dad here. My dad and mom got married at the racetrack during intermission at Mercer, Pennsylvania.
Aw.
See, he's got his shirt sleeve rolled up.
Now with those cars, they don't. So some of the cars you look at and you could see really big evolutions over time. These don't visibly look that different.
No.
From the old ones to the modern ones.
No, they really haven't changed at all. I mean, that's a car my dad drove in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look that much
today,
different.
really.
Yeah, yeah. This is, I told you I raced in Australia. This is a little bit of my Australia memorabilia here.
Still called racing when you get first place.
Good question.
You gave some people the tour of a track.
Yeah. I quit in '92. In 2015, I kind of got an opportunity to go race a car again. That was there. I hadn't driven in 23 years. My son was 23 years old then. He was born in December, and I quit driving in June of the next year, so he never got to see me race. So this deal came about. They called it the Legends Race or something in Fremont, Ohio. And I talked somebody into letting a 63-year-old that hadn't driven a car in 23 years, they let me drive their car at this race. So,
what was the catalyst that made you stop?
honestly, I mean, I quit really young. I was only 39 when I quit, but it just, there were more good drivers than there were good race cars. I mean, I could have kept racing locally. Hell, I could probably still be racing Friday and Saturday night or something, but I just, I did it and got to a fairly high level of sprint car racing, and I just, one night, it just kind of, it was a snap decision, just like when I go to change the oil and I come home in a new Corvette. Something silly happened to the car I was driving, and I pulled in and sat there on the trailer waiting on the father and son that owned it to get over there, and I just said to myself, you've done this 21 years, you got to a pretty high level. What are you doing at Lawrenceburg, Indiana in a 5th place car for $1,000 to win? And when the guys got over there, I said, you know what, guys, I think we need to just take my seat out of this thing. I find yourself a driver, I think I'm done. Just had no thoughts of that on the way to Lawrenceburg that night, just like that. And I never made a phone call to a car owner to try to get another ride after that.
Never regretted it? Missed it?
No, yeah, I found that I didn't miss it too much as long as I stayed away. I couldn't go. I still can't go. I can't, I'm 71, just turned earlier this month, and if I go to a sprint car race, I think I should be racing. I get no real pleasure out of watching somebody else drive a sprint car.
It's not that fun to sit in the stands and just watch after you've been in it, or you've been on a team, or you've at least been like part of it.
Yeah.
And like down in it.
Now some guys do. I mean, some guys have to stay involved whether they own a car or whatever. My dad was the same way as I was. He would have never went to a race after he quit if it wasn't to come watch me race. Now, because I moved away in '78, so we didn't see each other that often, so he'd come to like a big race like the Knoxville Nationals or something. He'd come watch me at that, which that's where that picture was taken. That's my World of Outlaw win I was telling you about, Sedalia, Missouri. Might be the homeliest trophy girl in the history of trophy girls there, but this was a really, really cool race my dad won. This is actually the trophy from it. This was 1967. The Winter National Sprints were in Tampa, Plant Field Raceway, and everybody in the country showed up for that opening race of the year, IMCA. The guy that drove that car had crashed it late the year before, and he broke his neck. And so they didn't want him. He was just about ready to race again, but they didn't want him racing without a cage. That was the last year they didn't run a roll cage, just the bar behind your head. So Dad gets in this car and goes out for warm-ups and turns it over. Flipped it in warm-ups. It was a really easy, real light rollover, so they got it fixed. He went out and set fast qualifying time and started on the pole and led the race every lap. There's him taking off from the pole, ran off and hid. That was pretty cool, never driving a car, flipping it in time trials, then setting fast time over every car in the country and winning the race.
And I really like those kind of kidney bean style wheels that are on there. I want that on my hot rod.
Yeah, Halibrand wheels, yep.
Magnesium.
Yep, yep.
With knockoffs. Love
This is actually, I've got the real picture upstairs, but that's my dad holding me. People say that they grew up in racing. That's growing up in racing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my dad holding me at the racetrack.
Do you have tattoos on his hands?
No, that was a stamp to get in the pit area. He's got some on his forearm and his bicep, but that's a pit pass stamp
So
there.
you were around the roar of an engine literally when you were a little baby.
And wonder why I can't hear. But my dad, he looked like Clark Gable.
He really did. I'm glad that we didn't miss this part.
Yeah.
Is this one of your uniforms over
The
there?
last one I have left, yep. I had to borrow one to drive that race in 2015 that I showed you the picture of.
Pretty hot in there?
Very hot, yeah. Yeah, that's the 3-layer one. It's really heavy. My dad raced with him more than I did, but I did race with him a little bit. Lynn Paxton, he's the curator of this museum. And he took me on a private tour, probably 3 hours around this place. And then there was one room we went in and it had fire suits hanging. The whole wall was like wallpapered in fire suits. So I told Paxton, I said, I've got 2 uniforms left. If you want one, if you would hang one up in here, I'll mail you one of them when I get home. So I sent him one of my suits, so that's the last one I got left.
Do you ever just get crazy and say, I'm going to try to put that thing on?
I tried in 2015 when I went to run that race there, and I couldn't get it past here.
I'm 55, I know what you mean. I don't know what the heck.
It just redistributes, because I know when I wore that suit, I weighed 185 or so, and now I weigh 205. You'd think I could have a chance.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Right here.
I'm thick.
Oh, Rick, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
I like all of it.
I love doing this stuff.